Hello and welcome back to Our Life, Beginnings and Always, the summer season 4, 2026 Derek adventure. That last time I have to apologize about all that. It was late because I had to re-record it. I had to redub it actually. You saw that. You've already seen that. And then I also had a lot of trouble rendering the video, and with Sony Vegas suddenly stopping working on me and having to find a new solution to render the video. So here we are. It's a little bit late, but we're continuing into June. It's almost Father's Day, so it makes sense that we're gonna have a little Father's Day adventure with the bros and Marina. Everyone got back into the car, same seats as before. No one had even put their seatbelt on before Jorge asked a very reasonable question.
Now what?
What are we doing now? Derek checked the back seat through the mirror. Yeah, what now, Nico? So we're doing more? I thought we were having time. I guess we gotta spend a whole day together, so there's still more to do. Nicholas crossed his arms behind his head, thoughtfully staring out of the window. All eyes stayed in today's decision maker. He considered long and hard in the hot car about how to use his power. In the end, he went for his old default. The teen leaned all the way over and popped his head through the gap between the two front seats. He glanced back and forth between you and Derek with one fuzzy brow arched. What did you people do when you were teens? What did people do when you were teens? That's what it was.
Oh, man.
Oh, way to make us sound ancient. We're 23. We're not over the hill yet. Darn kids these days, he joked. We aren't old. Nicholas is a little baby. Nico wants to do what Derek did. What a surprise. You dropped your head with a heavy sigh. You really... Yeah, no. We're gonna lay it on thick here. Nico rolled his eyes. That wasn't the second time. It was about the second time in about 10 minutes he was getting teased for that. You couldn't help it. But he pressed again. I mean it. What was the place to be when you were babysitting me and Jorge? Derek tapped a finger against the steering wheel. I remember the mall being super cool when I was still at school, but that started to die out, huh? I like going to malls. I went to a really cool dead mall recently in Texas. I really wish I could have filmed a video there. I wanted to. But, I don't know, man. I wish I had more time in Texas. Next time I go back to Fort Worth, if that mall is still there, I'm gonna film that. But I'm not going there specifically just to film that mall. I filmed something else really cool while I was there that I can't wait to show y'all soon.
What?
The mall? Really? Sparkles began to twinkle in Nicholas's eyes like a twilight sky. Yeah. The word was a nostalgic whisper. His gaze drifted off to somewhere in the distance. Hey Marina, remember when Miss Priest brought you, me, Cove, and Lee to the mall and just took off so we were on our own? Ah, you know about that. I thought that was such a bad idea, but it was a ton of fun. Of course I remember that. Those were the days. I still had no idea why she did that. Oh, I think I know what you mean. Definitely, she was cool. Those were the days. Totally. Jorge shrugged a single shoulder, buckling himself in for the ride. I've only ever gone there with Mom to get some new clothes. I don't remember it being any better than any other store. But if that's what Nico wants to do, I don't mind.
Let's go!
Nicholas launched himself backwards and bounced in his seat. He stayed still just long enough to lock his seatbelt into place. Apparently we're gonna go to that mall and relive our mall days now.
Let's get to it.
I missed a call, but it's the usual, well, if they leave me a message, we'll find out. The mall it is. 2 more clicks forward as you and Derek put your seatbelts on. Derek pulled out and you were on the road once more. The drive was spent with Derek trying and failing to remember all the stores that used to be in the county mall. He listed several off, but had no idea how many were still open in the year of 2021, or if they were even real store names, or if he was mixing the words up. Oh wow, it's only 5 years, so we could do another 5 years later in 2026, and here we are, right? His little brothers reveled in the laugh-inducing, floundering explanation of the magical mall of his youth. They took bets on how many of the shops they'd actually see when they got there. Jorge guessed only about 3 of them would be there, if they ever existed. Nicholas declared that every single one would be there, even the ones that had definitely sounded made up. So, like, I don't have the channel up right now, but I do have a lot of Dead Mall videos. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I have done them. I am no Dan Bell, but I do think I do a pretty good Dead Mall video, so y'all should check out my channel when I get it up. I can't promise when it's gonna be, though. Derek, reasonable as always, went down to the middle with his own recollection and guessed that you'd be able to find half of them there. You agreed with Jorge, you agreed with Nicolas, you agreed with Derek. You noticed that Derek wouldn't be right about any of them. You agreed with Derek, we gotta have our bros back. Derek assured you that you'd made a wise decision. You felt good about your odds. When you rolled into the County Mall's expansive parking lot, Derek was able to get a parking spot without any trouble. There were rows and rows of cracked and oil-stained slots with only a single car or two there. Just as Derek thought, the location had lost most of its popularity as the years went on. Hello, parking lot, I missed you. It was at least convenient for your needs. It was probably the only place in the city where parking wasn't jam-packed. The four of you filed out of the car, crossed the lot, and passed through the towering front doors. Oh, wow. The interior of the place had a slight uncanny feeling. The massive structure was unchanged from when you were a teenager, but everything felt smaller, less grand than before. No, this isn't unchanged. Pretty sure this is different than it was before. I'm pretty sure they've updated a lot of this. There's a lot of signs in here for sales and things. They definitely changed the mall for this DLC. That's really cool. There were stores that you were almost certain you'd never seen there, yet shops... There was so little to differentiate their offers and appearances from the shops of the past that made you question your memory. Well, here we are. Take it in.
Wow.
You wandered up and down the wide, mostly empty halls, pointing out stores Derek had named, or almost named, along the way. It was a game of I Spy. The younger brothers were quite entertained just by that. They led the pack to get the first look at whatever was ahead. Derek and you lingered behind and gave appropriate reactions whenever one of the boys showed out a store name that matched Derek's recollection or one that he had failed to know. I love the mall. Malls are just such a cool, like, space to me. I've probably talked about this ad length in the previous videos, but just going into these huge cathedral-like spaces now and seeing what's become of them all the years later. I didn't really have malls. I had a mall when I was a kid, but it was never that exciting of a mall. So for them, this is probably the same thing, but I like to go to different cities and see what their malls are like, especially if they're dying malls. Hopefully I'll get to do more of that soon. The two of them laughed and waved back at you while you cheered and booed at them. When you neared the end of the aisle, there was a break in store names that could be announced. Derek used that moment to whisper a joking remark. It feels like we're babysitting again, huh? Yep, our precious big babies. He winked and picked up the pace. Nico and Jorge had drifted further away from his watchful eye, and a responsible babysitter couldn't let that happen. Your group arrived at the crossroads in the mall, where three separate halls of stores converged in the middle. The tiny playground of coin rides, flanked by half-full candy dispensers, remained the centerpiece. The little cars and the helicopter were far more worn down, but still intact. Derek snorted at the revelation.
Man!
Well, we definitely are too old for that now. I might seriously break something if I tried to fit. Without the boisterousness of Nicholas and Jorge to fill the space, the sounds of footsteps echoed so much louder. Derek's expression twisted and dripped bittersweetly, looking at the space. Being here now, it's not the same. Then his focus came onto his brothers, and his face snapped back to its usual optimism.
So...
You guys actually want to go into any of these stores? His little brothers both turned around to stare wide-eyed at their elder. It's also the Night in the Woods thing, right? Where May wants to go to, like, the Hot Topic, the FYE or whatever it is. Nicolas and Jorge were genuinely taken surprised with the idea of behaving as regular customers. They were visiting a sightseers from an archaeological site from times long gone. In case I want them, a picture of them in the mall, for whatever reason. Nico blinked rapidly to hydrate his eyebrows after keeping them open for so long. Yeah, he's bad at that, right? Then his expression slipped into an easy grin. He put his hands on his hips. Yeah, I'll try it. He scanned the rows and rows of stores with new, refreshed eyes. The target was quickly acquired. Nicolas pointed an outstretched hand at a black-walled skater shop. I want to look at that one. Jorge had come to face an entirely different direction. He'd mulled over the suggestion silently and was gazing in consideration at a bookstore with huge glass windows that showed off not only the books on sale, but other wares like board games and figurines. Nerd! I like Jorge, though. I actually thought he was just going to be a football bro when he grew up, but he's more of a nerd, right? The unspoken difference of opinion didn't escape Derek's attention. He spoke with full authority, truly dusting off those old babysitter instincts. Also, he was a skater boy. He said, "See you later, boy." Well, I love the Derek expression in the back here. Hey, this doesn't mean I want you guys going off on your own. You're not little kids, but we're here to be together. And there's time to see more than one place. We'll take turns. Okay. Automatically and obediently, Jorge and Nicolas replied in unison. They were good kids. Is there some place you and Marina want to go to? Wrong form of two. Or unless it's you want to go to, I guess, but... Derek doesn't hesitate. He jerked a thumb over his shoulder at the video game shop.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I want to check out. Marina? All three Suarez brothers watched you questioningly, each wondering the same thing. It was hard to say without knowing for sure what the options even were. And you're not going to give me a bunch, are you? But luckily, the center section had a handy 8-foot-tall map that was emblazoned with easy-to-follow categories and lists of store names. It was a veritable cheat sheet for their little game, and you were glad the two younger boys found stores they wanted without needing to peek at it. There was nothing wrong with you having some extra insight, though, and you read over everything laid out. A significant amount of the stores sold food. You just left a bakery and should be eating with the rest of the family pretty soon, so you decided against all of those. You also realized something was missing. There had been a music store before, and now the spot was filled by a perfume and candle store. Beyond that, there were tons of chain stores of very standard types of products. Ah yes, good old Bath and Body Works and White Barn Candle. In every mall dead mall in America, you'll find a Bath and Body Works, and I love it. You mind the makeup store? How about the art supply shop? What about this perfume and candle shop? I want to visit a clothing store over here, the accessory store I'd like to visit. Let's go to the camping and outdoor supply shop. Those three are good with me. Shook your head. No. Marina is this person now. We've decided this. They have that? Yeah, let's check that out. Derek nodded his head formally, but paired it with a cheery grin.
Come on.
We've got a plan. I mean, that's where I would go out of all those choices, but that's also Marina. Of all those things, that's Marina. The group checked out the games. Holy crap. We get to pick what order we go in? Let's go in the order they picked it. Let's go to Nicolas's place first. The group crowded into Nicolas's choice of store. Aggressive rock music played with the graffiti-covered walls. He picked first, so we should go in that order, right? I can't believe you get to pick what order you go in. That feels like something that should be scripted. That's weird. It was small and cramped, making it impossible for 4 people to navigate between the displays together. Derek and Jorge were filtered through the narrow spaces on one side of the shop, and you and Nicolas were on the other. Ah, Hot Topic. This is just Hot Topic. That's what this is. it's Budget Hot Topic. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, I guess this whole video is probably just going to be the mall. I thought we were going to go back home to the folks in this one, but I guess that'll have to be next time. So maybe I will end up getting that out on Father's Day at the rate I'm going. The claustrophobic atmosphere didn't faze Nico. He lackadaisically surveyed the scene, stopping only when he came across a shelf of slip-on shoes. Nicolas lifted a checkered shoe off the rack and weighed it in his hands. By the intrigued rise of his brows, you got the impression you'd be in that spot for a while. My brother was like this when he was a teenager, actually. He was really into shoes and going to places that had cool shoes like this. And he's looking at these freaking what are they called? They're not Keds, are they? I'm dumb. There's a name for that type of shoe. I can't remember what they're called. The freaking shoes that come in the checkered patterns, and they're like skater shoes. Somebody tell me in the comments. I'm losing my mind. So how'd school go last year? Do you have a favorite class you're taking for summer? Have you gotten into skateboarding? I was just wondering, how are you doing lately? Have you gotten into skateboarding? He snickered at the clearly out-of-touch grown-up he was talking to. No way. I don't live that life, but I appreciate the aesthetic. Ah, understandable. You laughingly hiccuped to the small response. That sounded like Nico. Nicolas let out a concontent breath. He was fully at ease with the world. It was wild that you're literally just there and talking to me. He was so much like Derek, even when he wasn't intending to be. Well, it's true. I'm really here. Honestly, it feels like we're talking to you normally instead of like a giant. It's weird talking to you. I hope it's unbelievable in a good way. I think it's trying to leave yours big. Nah, I think we gotta do it. I hope that's unbelievable in a good way. That smirk grew wider in his face, and he put the first shoe down and picked up another, though ultimately returned to that one and displayed it again as well. Nicholas gestured with his hand for you to come. As he turned away more, he walked back to the center of the tiny space. From there, it was easy for his older brothers to spot him. Derek and Jorge waded through the merchandise, pressing in from all sides, almost knocking a few things over on their way. It was a rough place to be for a couple of large adult men. But they didn't have to worry about that for long. I'm done with this, he announced with a shrug. Nico hadn't got anything. He only wanted to satisfy his curiosity. We can go someplace else now. Okay, we'll go to the bookstore then for Jorge. I guess this is who you want to interact with from the group, too. You get to interact with whatever Suarez is here. The four of you filed into the large bookstore and began to drift around. It was one of the most spacious shops in the mall. Yeah, I just had to type a text, and it wasn't anything good. Jorge went down the very first aisle of books, and you walked with him. He was focused enough that he had to be searching for something, but there was no way to tell what was on his mind. What are you in the mood for? How you been doing? Things going well at school? What's your major? I don't think you've mentioned it. I want to know. Yeah, that's what I want to know. Have you started seeing anyone since starting college? You quietly browsed alongside him. Ooh, you can find out about Jorge's love life. What's your major? I don't think you mentioned it. Physics. I went to school with a lot of, like, when I went to college, all my friends were physics majors. So that's just hilarious. I didn't even need to ask, huh? You're a smart cookie. Jorge's calm dissolved with a flash of color in his face. He had to sever eye contact with you. Ah, this face. The books didn't hold Nico's or Derek's attention as long as Jorge's. While he remained in one section, considered each one entitled on a shelf, his brother skipped along from row to row after giving only cursory glances to the specifics. With a bit of distance between himself and his family, Jorge took the opportunity to have a more private conversation with you personally. So it's, like, interesting because we're getting to see the personalities of the individual, Suarez bros. His quiet voice and being walled in by books made you feel as if you were in a library rather than a mall.
I'm glad.
I'm glad you're back, Marina. That floored you. Not that you found it unbelievable, but you expected it to be a forever unspoken affection. Jorge admitting it so directly was massive for you. There's no way I wouldn't come see you sooner or later. Yeah. You simply returned to shopping as happy as could be. You felt much lighter yourself. Jorge ended up finding a newly released thriller that sounded interesting. He purchased it and went to find his siblings. Nicholas and Derek had holed up in the graphic novel and manga aisle. They looked at as you and Jorge approached. They grinned after seeing the bag under Jorge's arm. Yeah, I mean, that's probably where I would end up to. I'm finished. Thanks for coming with me. What now? We'll go to GameStop. So that was Barnes & Noble, right? You got Hot Topic, Barnes & Noble. Yeah, I have no idea what this is going to be. Sometimes there's like a Cabela's outdoors in our malls. I don't know. Otherwise, there's some other random outdoors stores. A lot of places have their own different outdoor places. I guess Dick's Sporting Goods tends to be an anchor at a lot of malls. I don't know if I've ever been to a Dick's Sporting Goods. I probably have because I like camping at outdoor stores a lot. That's where I spend a lot of my time. Derek confidently strolled into the local GameStop with his younger brothers flanking his sides. Actually, GameStops really aren't in malls as much anymore. So very few malls have them anymore. Like indie game shops that aren't related to GameStop are the better place to go. I went to a really cool place in Fort Worth that was a arcade. It was a free arcade with like a bunch of Japanese arcades in it. The set of three glanced around eagerly and split off in different directions around a single room. You followed Derek toward the front wall while Jorge and Nicholas went to the back corners. He bounced up and down on the pads of his feet like a kid in a candy store. We should totally get something. Yeah, you probably play like all the football games and stuff, right? You're into the new, probably... No. He's excited about the new FIFA that just came out. Date in the video. Sure, what console do you have? None. Not right now, at least. You don't have, like, a PlayStation 4 or something like that? A conspiratorial gleam shone in his shifting green eyes. While watching his back, Derek inclined his face closer to you, put a hand to his side of his face, and shared a real plan with you. Whoa! We're just name dropping an actual console here. I did not expect that. I figured they'd make up. Didn't they have like a made up Game Boy or something earlier in this? Like, didn't Marina have some kind of made-up Game Boy in the earlier? But no, we're just gonna do this now. I'm gonna convince Nico to let us borrow his Switch. I know he's got one last year just for himself. But what I don't know is all the games he owns.
Awesome.
That's no longer a problem now. We can pick out whatever we want here. Something we can play together. Oh, we'll need an extra controller too. He chattered along with poorly restrained excitement, smiling sweetly at you as he did. So Derek wants to buy a video game that we can play together. Because of course he does, because it's Derek. Same old Derek. He might be twice as tall and twice as swole, and three times as swole, but it's the same person. I love it. He grew up into the same man's. Derek could have gotten a digital download of a game instead, but there was no need to spoil the fun of picking out in a retail store. Now I have to go on the whole rant about physical media and why physical media is amazing. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most of the games I own are on Steam, so they're digital downloads. But I love physical media. I don't like console games. I don't play console games anymore. I'm not into that. But physical media for movies and videos, oh my god. I have a VHS collection and nothing to play them on, just like Derek has no game system consoles and he wants to buy a game. But frickin' Nintendo Switch gets into this. Derek, let's race. We could fight a party game. Let's see what fighting games they have. That was always the obvious, a sports game. I'm sure they have a shooter we could play. I wonder if there's a multiplayer sim game here. A platformer would be nice for that. We could get a puzzle game. Sounds good. You pick out the game. I don't mind it. I mean, who are we? Do we want to race or do we want to do the sports game? Probably the race, right? We remember we played Mario Kart Double Dash with these guys before. Yeah, that's what it was. We played Mario Kart Double Dash with the Suarez family, and they wouldn't call it that. They gave it this they were very generic about it on the GameCube. But that's clearly what it was. So the Suarez family is a Nintendo family. So let's get the newest Mario Kart. You did your best to mimic the bold inflection of Derek's father. It got a good laugh. Oh, that's what we were doing. That's a reference. That's literally a reference to that. Perfect. Let's race. The two of you worked as a team to scour through the library of Switch games for the right game genre multiplayer capability. There's not that many. The Switch library is not that big, friends. And even if it is, not very many of them are that good. I haven't played that many, to be fair. A few contenders appeared, and you had a mini-group huddle to come to a final decision. Derek held the case high like a prize, it was marched toward the register. He plucked a refurbished controller off the wall and followed after him. Can you get third-party controllers for the Switch? I've never thought about it. I've never tried to, I have a Switch, but it's the handheld version. I don't have the console version, so I really don't know. I guess you can get third-party controllers for anything, right? Derek clapped the case against the counter with as much gumption as someone playing a winning hand in cards. He chuckled at his own dramatics when you had to awkwardly slide the controller he'd forgotten alongside the game. Thanks, Marina. No problem. Our multiplayer excursion would have been pretty short without it. Nicholas couldn't go too long without checking in on his big brother's activity. He spotted the two of you at the register. Seeing it was a game for Switch, he nodded happily. The team was blissfully unaware that Derek's true intentions with buying it for that console. Derek played it cool and paid for the game controller. He didn't even look at his little brother until the deal was done and he secured the bag. Then Derek flipped around confidently.
Nice work.
Mission accomplished. Let's hit the next stop. Okay, let's go to the camping store. So they clearly wrote a separate entry for every store you could possibly want to go to yourself. These people are crazy. You checked over the offerings available. Most of it was stuff you could get anywhere else, but there were some decent sales going on. You were able to pick out one thing you wanted to buy. The Suarez brothers gave approving thumbs up on your selection. They stuck beside you as you checked out and finished up your turn. Oh, that's all. Okay, so they're all like a couple lines for whatever your store is. They're not going to be special. Okay, we've had some good stops, but it's getting late. We gotta go home now. Nicholas genially accepted the end of the trip. Fine, thanks for bringing us up to this old place. A warmth came to his voice as he concluded the statement. It's cool that we got to hang out together. The sweetness brought a huge grin to Derek's face. He placed a hand on Nicholas's head as he'd done for many years. And he's such a good kid now. Oh my god, I love this person. This man's. I'm glad we did this too. Nicholas beamed at those words. The only thing better than having fun with his family was knowing that his family was having fun with him as well. In high spirits, he slipped out from under Derek's hold and threw an arm around Jorge's shoulder. The middle brother linked his own hand around Nico. The affection between all three of them had only grown stronger as the years had gone by. Everyone ambled towards the exit, feeling fulfilled. As you approached the door, Jorge began to speak. So is if we marry Derek, is Jorge the best man? I would assume so, right? Because he's the older one. Hey, this would be like the end of the moment if it was a moment. It's that music. It's the end of the moment music. Did anyone else notice Derek Marina won the bet? About half the stories he mentioned were real in there.
Yeah.
That's right. Nicholas stuck out a peace sign and cheered victoriously, despite not having one himself. Something even better had happened. Obviously, if Derek wasn't right about all the stories he talked about, then he'd be right about how many stories he'd be right about. Wait, obviously, if Derek wasn't right about all the stories he talked about, then he'd be right about how many stories he'd be right about. That's awkward to say, but it's probably how Nicholas would talk. Derek shook his head with a laugh at the exaggerated description from his biggest fan.
Thanks.
For believing in me. Always, bro. Derek's right all the time. Yeah, we're the best. Hey, it wasn't just him, I guess. I guess that too, you joked. We're the best. Well, yeah. Okay, I like this the best of all. Our Suarez bros with them all. Sounding humble was a struggle with how giddy all the praise made him. All the loose threads had been tied up and you left them all behind. You got back in the shotgun seat and strapped in for the drive back to the Suarez home. When everyone was set, you were on your way. It was a peaceful ride, mostly quiet. After a long excursion, the rest was in order. But it only lasted the first leg of the trip. Eventually, the soothing rumble of the car was harmonized with the gentle sounds of Nicholas humming joyfully to himself. And only a second later, that was followed by a heart-wrenching gasp. The eldest brother instantly stiffened in his seat.
What's up?
No!
My eclair! It's disgusting! The eclair? He ran that piece of information through his mind. The facts of the situation clicked into place. It melted. Nicholas whined at the tragedy of it all. Derek was right again, and he let out a nervous chuckle.
Never would have guessed that.
What did you think would happen? It's a cream-filled dessert that's been sitting for hours in a locked car during summer. I didn't think anything... It just happened!
That's a bummer.
I figured you were going to eat it on the way to the mall. I forgot about it. There were plenty of questions and comments coming from both his brothers, but there was little Nicholas could say in defense. He twisted in your seat to check on the youngest. The sight was pitiful. He was slouched in his seat, gazing down to his box, full of regrets. The suffering couldn't be ignored. Jorge was compelled to offer a solution to protect Nico from the consequences of his actions. You can have mine. It's still fine. It's a little soft, but warm muffins are good. Nicholas tucked his knees up and gripped the box a little more tightly. A new dessert sadly couldn't undo what had been done. I don't want that. It ruined mine. I ruined mine. It's inedible. The solemnness brewing in the back seat was cracked by a bold declaration from the very front. I doubt that. Pass it over. That snapped Nicholas to attention. He was boggled by his brother. It wasn't hard to imagine why. Derek didn't enjoy treats on a normal day, and that one in particular was in a sorry state. But it was even easier to guess the reason after. All of that didn't matter. Derek could stomach anything for his baby brother. He continued to coax Nicholas.
I see how it is.
I love that line. I was always going to try to get some of your dessert. That's the reason I didn't get my own. If you're not having any, that makes it even better for my plans. I think Derek wanted some of our dessert secretly. Nicholas wasn't a 6-year-old anymore. He knew a plate-hitting stunt when he saw one. He at Derek in pouty resistance, trying to brush the whole attempt off. You still act like a child, Nicholas. Yet Derek had grown in that time as well. He hadn't lost his knack attending to his baby brothers, even if it took more effort. He pretended to be oblivious to the rejection. Marina, could you get me the box? There was a groan and a sliding shuffle sound. Nicholas had shoved the box through the opening between the driver's seat and the shotgun. Just like a guessing game, he wasn't going to win this. Okay. You took the Zake box from Nicolas and brought it up to the front. The lid was already open, and you had a peek at the eclair puddle. It was only about half as tall as it had been originally. The structure of the filled treat had collapsed in on itself. The paper doily underneath was entirely coated in liquefied chocolate frosting and pastry cream. That still sounds delicious! You little brat. You held the eclair out towards Derek. Your fingers sunk into the sides of the overheated pastry with no resistance. They were immediately covered in sticky ooze bleeding out from the inside. There was no way to do what you wanted to do without getting messy, but it was the path you'd chosen. You made your best attempt to avoid having the car suffer the same fate as your hands as you inclined to inch the eclair toward Derek's head.
Whoa!
The unexpected confection floating in front of Derek's peripheral caught him entirely off guard. He gripped the wheel harder, with enthralled whispers could be heard from the two audience members. You were sure he might have had something to say to your stunt, but he kept himself composed as casual. He was driving and his little brothers were watching. Thanks, Marina. That makes it easier. His eyes stayed on the road, and he turned his head over slightly to reach the treat. He didn't waste any time taking as large a bite as he could manage. He barely seemed to chew before he swallowed. Isn't bad. Not too sweet. I'm honestly impressed. Xavier is a damn good baker. You gave the box back to Nicholas. You asked to try it. Derek made it seem tempting. You asked to eat some for Nico's sake. You took a bite of your own. Derek made it seem tempting. Wow. No, we're eating it. We're eating it. You managed to get a satisfyingly squishy chomp. The texture was miles away from what an eclair should be, but it still had very good flavor. Derek wasn't kidding when he praised Xavier's skills.
Hey.
That's mine. We didn't get to eat our own cake yet, really? Well, I think they would have eaten their own cake, right? Nicolas showed it instinctively. You smiled at him with your grubby face and waited for the shock to wear off. He eventually remembered that he didn't want the eclair. A rueful smile pulled at the corner of his mouth. Feeling a little fuller and much more satisfied, you set what remained of the eclair down and returned the dessert to its original owner. He poked at the remnants inside. After all that, he couldn't help himself and scooped some of the mushy mess out and gave it an exploratory taste. Nico grimaced as soon as he hit his tongue, and he let out a heavy sigh when he swallowed it down. It's pretty gross. As true as that was, there was a breathy chuckle threaded into his words. Not so long ago, he'd been as droopy as the eclair itself. Now he was starting to perk up. There was one person left who didn't take part in the event. He stayed quiet no longer. You too, Jorge? Did I try it too?
Totally.
It's all yours. The box was unceremoniously dumped into Jorge's legs. He awkwardly grabbed it to keep it from falling on the floor. Jorge gave a snort.
Thanks.
Don't mention it. There was a decent amount left, and it was quite a lengthy type of confection. For Nicolas, it would have been at least 2 bites. Jorge, however, was able to stuff the remainder of the confection into his face, and just like that, it was gone. Nicolas barked louder and clearer than before. Well, I did say it was yours. Thanks to the team effort, none of the eclair went to waste. No soggy clouds remained over anyone's head. You remember to eat your own treat, too. You decided not to eat your own treat after that. Now, who wants some of my raspberry lemon cake? It's just as melted as the eclair, so it makes for a fitting follow-up.
No.
The trip home came with all good moods all around. As soon as you reached your destination, Nicolas and Jorge jumped out of the car right away. Derek took a second to gather up the gift he'd gotten for his father and the card from Mr. Holden. You made sure you got your own stuff, too, before following after the boys. And this could be about what I expected. I said originally was expecting to this to be a little bit longer of a video because I thought we were doing this party. This will be the next one will probably be fairly long because we'll do the whole party. But we had a little a brief mall adventure with the Suarez brothers today. This whole thing. This is going on quite a while. So we'll see you next time for more japes with the Suarez family.